this is what happened. So, you know, it's interesting to me who does and who doesn't want their ghost stories out. But one of the things you realize very quickly with the sincere people is you got to treat it with a great deal of respect, because these folks are not telling you just some idle part of their past. They're sharing with you an important part of their life. And the interview I'll never forget comes from a story called Little Girl Lost. I think it's in Indiana 1, I'm not sure. It was about a house in Merrillville. No, cool. If you can find it, let me know. He knows my stuff maybe better than I do. But I interviewed, which one's it in it? Book 2. Okay, cool. Anyway, it was about a woman and her husband who'd moved into an old house in Merrillville, and they had a number of kids, and they had to rehab the house. And as they were rehabbing the house, the husband began to hear a child's voice calling for her mother, hearing it again and again. And he sort of dismissed himself as being overtired until his wife was helping. She began to hear it. And actually, this sounds bizarre, but what the husband did is he stopped his work one night and said, "Honey, your mom's not here, but we're going to live here now, and if you want to live with us, that's fine, but you can't scare us." I interviewed the woman who had lived there for 20 years, and she was in a nursing home. She was as sharp, or probably more sharp than I am. Physically frail, but very, very acute. And she talked about living there in that house. At the end of the interview, what really struck me is she began gently to cry. She began to weep a little bit. And as gently as I could, I said, "Why are you crying right now?" And she looked at me and she said, "You know what? I had 6 kids. And I moved out of that house 20 years ago. And I've never escaped the feeling that I abandoned one of my kids when I moved out of that house." When you hear that, it gets very real for you. Okay? That's what I mean when I say it's real. I wasn't there. I didn't see what she saw. I didn't hear what she heard. Can't testify to anything except that I can promise you that lady I know truly meant what she was saying. Other questions, guys? Have I put you all to sleep? Yes, sir, in the back.
Do you know anything about the Dewey House in South Merrillville?
That qualifies in with the Wolf Mansion, and I hate quoting history that may or may not be correct. So take this with a grain of salt. It's one of those like the Wolf Mansion so far as everybody says it's haunted. There's a number of fragmentary legends, but nothing cohesive there. Supposedly they say that it was a part of the Underground Railroad. They say the same thing about the Wolf Mansion. Supposedly there was, well, you hear a couple fragments, and this would be common, that there was a murder there in the late 1800s, or rather probably early 1900s, it's not that old, or perhaps that a mother had, the other one I heard is that a mother lost a child there and sort of mourned herself to death, but I've never heard a legend in that area. Okay? But yes, supposed to be haunted, absolutely. Other questions? Yes?
Have you heard anything on Moody's Light in Rensselaer?
Yes! Moody's Light! Yes! You know what? Last spring, my wife and daughter and I went down there, and we didn't see it, but I know plenty of people have. Moody's Light is a ghost light, which is actually fairly common across the United States. They're classified as unexplained lights, and although they're explained in a lot of different ways, Moody's Light is in a farm field, and supposedly you can see a floating or bouncing ball of light along the way. Some people say that it is car lights, although there are also claims that the first recorded instance of it was before cars. Some people explain it as swamp gas, but I don't know, but I do know some very reliable people who say that they have seen a light out there.
Well, I've seen it.
You've seen it?
Several times.
There you go.
We go every year.
And it bounces? I need to go with you. I don't want to.
It kind of floats. It's like somebody's carrying a lantern. I mean, the highway that's out there is so far away, and it gets close to you. It gets far. Sometimes it's real dim. Sometimes it's real.
How close has it got to you?
I would say probably like 10 car lengths away from where we were at. Yeah.
Wow. I've seen it.
You've seen it?
Yeah. It took us. We were out there for like an hour before it showed up.
You saw it?
Sometimes as soon as you're pulling down the road, I mean, you can see it right behind your car coming up behind you.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's real.
I need to go with you guys. We need to hang. The story that's developed about that light, I have a feeling it's one of those that they developed a story after the phenomenon was noted, is a farmer in the area whose daughter either ran away, there are different legends, either ran away or was kidnapped, and it pushed him over the edge, and so every night he would light a lantern and search just go walking through the woods and the farm fields searching for his daughter, and he eventually died, but he kept up that search after his death. So that's the legend that's developed. But my guess is probably that legend developed around the light rather than the light developing around the legend. Cool. I've known a lot of people who said that they've seen it. Yes, ma'am.
How do people submit stories to you if they're true?
Cool. Talk to me. I'll give you my name and address. I'd love to talk to you. I'm starting a new project, actually, a haunted travel guide to Indiana, but after that there'll be Indiana 5. I always love talking with people. In the Deep South, they call that talking spook, and it's my favorite thing to do. As long as I can look at you and know you don't want me to exhume a body, do you? All right. Talk to me. Yes.
I'm from Griffith, and I heard several stories about the Reader Road.
Yeah.
And nobody ever knew the names of Randy or Emily Robinson. Are those confirmed names?
No.
No. Right.
Here's what you got to understand about that first story, okay? People say, is it true? And I say, absolutely it's true that it's a story. The Vanishing Hitchhiker is the oldest ghost story in the world. Literally. The first written evidence we have of that comes from about 3 to 6 BC from China, okay? The Vanishing Hitchhiker is all over the United States. There are at least, well, I say that there are 4 that I've collected in Indiana. I know that there are a lot more. And one of them is on Reader Road, okay? And does that mean that it's not true? I have no idea. But what you have to understand is that is exactly that. It's a legend. It's a story. And I, quite frankly, in a legend like that, they're not going to repeat a name exactly. So I came up with those names, okay? So I told the story as I had heard it a couple times, but names are something that isn't necessarily consistent throughout legends. So I have full license, What I tell people is a journalist says, facts, give me facts. I say, innuendo, give me innuendo, But there are stories, though, that I really try to be very truthful of. When I do history, I try it very, very carefully. And a couple of them, Diana of the Dunes. Diana of the Dunes, Alice Mabel Gray, absolutely historical figure. Tried to do that one right. The one that is an ongoing, it's absolutely a fascinating story, is Belle Gunness. Belle Gunness was absolutely America's most prolific female serial killer, quite possibly America's most prolific killer. And she was in LaPorte. Chopped up between you can read estimates anywhere from 16 to 50 victims. Most of the experts say 30 to 40 men that she killed. And that's one where, when I do, that's probably a 12-page paper. The ghost story is the last 2 pages. But when I'm doing history, I try to do history. But in something like The Vanishing Hitchhiker, it's difficult to do history.